Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got a combo that I am super excited to see what we can get out of it, because myself as well as a lot of you guys really wanted to see what this combo can do after we tested these shells last week and the absolutely insane performance that we had out of them. So I don't know if this combination is going to be able to duplicate that kind of performance or not, but if there's a choke that might be able to do it, it might be this one. So I guess we're going to find out together what kind of pattern it's actually capable of giving us, because it could be extremely impressive. But for the shells I brought out here today, I got out some more of the old school Winchester Supreme buckshot loads. These ones are the 12 gauge 3-inch 12 pellet load of double-aught buck, moving about 1,450 feet per second. These are their copper-plated high-velocity shells, and to be honest with you, in our previous tests, they have been kind of the bottom end of average until last week's test. If you have not seen that, here's the card above. Go check that one out, because it totally surprised us. We saw an absolutely incredible pattern with these shells through the 1187 and the Pattern Master Black Mamba choke. So we know that these are capable of some incredible patterns, but what can they do through today's choke combo? But as for that setup I brought today, I got out the Remington 1187 again, so the setup has not changed. However, I put this choke in here, which is the Kicks Buck Kicker Full. This particular one measures out right at a 693 constriction, and we've done a number of tests with this choke now, and it's always done well with any halfway decent buckshot load. So considering the performance we saw from those shells through what is typically not really technically a well-known buckshot choke in that Black Mamba last week, a lot of us were really curious to see what this buck kicker would actually do with them. It might give us the same pattern or a little bit better even, I don't know, or it could be way worse. We just don't know. So we know we've got a good shell that has a tremendous amount of potential. We've got the same shotgun setup, just a different choke. So I guess we'll just see what we get with this combination. But as for the test today, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the big sheet of paper at 40 yards, got the chronograph so we can get our velocity, and I've got the templates that we can lay up over our results. So enough talking, let's get you guys a view of this target and take this shot and see just what kind of results we're able to get from these Supreme high velocity shells through this Kicks Buck Kicker Full choke today. It has the potential to be extremely impressive, but we don't know until we try it. So let's head over here and take the shot and just see what kind of pattern it's able to give us. Alright, so that round gave us 1351 through the chrono. The boss claim is 1450, and last time we tested these shells last week, we saw 1480 or something. So we definitely are down a little bit on velocity through that buck kicker choke for one reason or another. Either way, 1351 for a loaded double-aught buck is still moving on out pretty nicely, and they are a pretty stout load in the recoil department as well. But what kind of a pattern were we able to get down there at 40 yards through that buck kicker? And did it replicate what we had seen previously or not? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And immediately, right off the bat, it is nowhere near as impressive as what we had seen with these shells through that Pattern Master Black Mamba 690. Not even close. Now for reference, the white dot was the point of aim, the paper is 36 inches wide by roughly 42 inches tall, and I did measure the overall size of the pattern, which we do have all 12 pellets right here on the paper. But from farthest point across to farthest point across, we had 21¼ inches of spread. Last time we tested these through that Black Mamba, we had 10 inches. So definitely nowhere even close to what we had seen previously. And clearly, it kind of looks like a donut pattern a little bit. The overall size being 21 inches isn't terrible. That's pretty average for a lot of decent buckshot loads. Like typically the federal copper plated shells are between 18 and 22 inches. So overall size of the pattern isn't terrible, but the shape of the pattern is definitely a little bit funny. And a little bit oval, oblong, and donut, which is kind of not what I like to see. So I guess overall, did that buck kicker help these shells out any from what we had previously tested a good long while back on the channel with them through stock chokes? Yes, it did greatly improve our previous results from a long time ago. However, I guess we were kind of spoiled with seeing last week's results first, because this is still a usable size of a pattern, but it's definitely not perfect either, and we know now we can get way better than this out of these shells. So I guess let's throw a couple templates up and get a little bit better of an idea of how they actually performed. All right, we'll start with our 10-inch circle, and if we line it up with where our core should be, we had one pellet within a 10-inch circle. Everything else is right around the edges of this template or right behind the template. So you can really see there just how much of a donut pattern it is. The overall size isn't bad, once again, but the middle, you've got nothing there. So for the 10-inch circle in our core, definitely a pretty big letdown, that's for sure. But I guess let's throw a couple animal templates up and see what they would look like if you would have taken this shot in a hunting type of scenario. All right, so here's our deer template, and if we were to line it up with our point of aim, we still would have absolutely had a dead deer there, I'd say. You had 11 of them that definitely would have hit him. Now, granted, one of those 11 is in the front leg down there, so definitely not perfect, but you can still really see the big void right in the middle of that pattern there where that white dot is. Is it good enough to get you a deer at 40 yards with that combo? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But definitely not my ideal pattern that I'm looking for. So good enough? Yeah, absolutely. Is it a little bit disappointing based on what we know these shells can do? Yeah, it definitely is. So good enough, but far from perfect at the same time. So I guess let's throw the hog template up. I think it's going to be pretty much the same story, but we should at least look at it and see what we see. All right, so here's that hog template, and it is pretty well the same story. Good enough to get you a hog at 40 yards? Sure, absolutely. Is it impressive looking while doing it? Not really. You still definitely have a big hole in your core. So I guess at the end of the day here, it's not a complete failure. It is a usable pattern, but if you've got a ton of these shells and want to use them, it really seems like a Pattern Master Black Mamba 690 is the way to go, because they did extremely well through that choke. Now remember, these shells don't have a wad, and I honestly don't know if they have buffer in them or not, but they are a copper plated pellet, so they do have something going for them. But I think it's a case of a shell that's kind of borderline. They're loaded with potential to pattern, but you have to find the right choke for them. And I think that Black Mamba is that specific choke for these shells. So at the end of the day, it's not a complete failure, but I was definitely hoping to see a lot better than that, or at least a little bit more of an even spread without a big hole in the middle of the pattern. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that pattern right there? Is it terrible in the grand scheme of things? Definitely not. We've seen way worse out of what should be quality shells. So that is a usable 40-yard pattern at the end of the day. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. I do not like that big donut shape with a hole in the middle. The overall size isn't bad. It's plenty usable enough, but if you don't have anything in your core, which is kind of where you're aiming your shot to be at, then that definitely is a big downside to this. So I guess I was really hoping to see a little bit better results from that, but I think we kind of got spoiled and found the right choke for them before we tested them through this combo. And I would say that that choke is that Black Mamba 690, because that was about as good as you can ever ask for out of a buckshot pattern. So I guess let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these old Winchester Supreme buckshot loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a good enough pattern that you would hunt with, or are you kind of in the same camp that I am, where the size isn't bad, but the shape of the pattern with that big hole in the middle just isn't ideal? Let me know all your thoughts down below, as well as maybe what other setups or chokes might you want to see us test these shells through. Let me know what you think down in the comments. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.